All right, so we're on 2.3, and overall it shouldn't really be that long because 2.3 is graphing equations of lines. Okay, which I know we've done some of. Y'all said you feel pretty good about graphing lines and stuff, so honestly, this section should be a walk in the park for you guys for the most part. Just a couple of quick definitions here. A family of functions is a group of functions. A parent function is the most basic function. Okay, so just for reference here, okay, the parent function for a linear function, the parent function is y is equal to x, and essentially that graph just looks like, try to get a color that you guys can see. It just looks like that. Okay, so the y-intercept is 0, and it has a slope of 1. That's the most basic function, and that's the parent function for linear functions. I presume you guys remember the x-intercept is where the graph crosses the x-axis, y-intercept is where the graph crosses the y-axis. We talked about the differences of parallel and perpendicular functions the other day. You might be asked to graph like two parallel lines or two perpendicular lines. It is possible that you might be given two functions, and it might say to compare the graphs of the function. That's a possibility, as in like you might be given the parent function, and then you might be given another function out here, and it might say, well, what is the difference? And you would say, well, these lines appear to be parallel, they appear to have the same slope. If it gives you the equation, then obviously you would know. But just different things we can make conclusions from based on that. But obviously we'll deal with that in class and some examples and stuff. I think you guys probably remember slope-intercept form, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about it really quick. Okay, slope-intercept form is y is equal to mx plus b. Okay, with m being slope, and b is the y-intercept. So then really quick, kind of the last thing that goes in this section here, actually there's a couple things, so let me go ahead and go to a new page here for that, just to kind of wrap it up. The standard form. Okay, so we have several different forms. So far you guys know the slope-intercept form. Now we're adding on the standard form, which I think you've seen before, but so refresher if you have. But ax plus by is equal to c, with a and b not both being 0. Can be graphed by plotting x and y intercepts. There are some steps to graph in standard form. So the first one, write in standard form. Okay, it may not be given to you in standard form, so we need to write it in standard form. 2, so step 2, we set y equal to 0 and solve for x, then plot the x-intercept. Okay, so this is the method here where you do it like with covering it up, like with your hand. We call it like the cover-up method, I think is probably what you refer to it as. I think if you did cover that in Algebra 1, that's what my mom refers to it as, so you probably have heard that with her before. And then lastly, you do the same thing but with x, or sorry, not lastly, there's one more thing. Set x equal to 0 and solve for y. Then plot the y-intercept. And then lastly, on the steps, draw a line connecting the points. Okay. Now, you can obviously take standard form and rewrite it to be in slope-intercept form. You can take slope-intercept form and rewrite it in standard form. It's just different ways of rewriting the same thing. It'll all graph the same line. Just so you know, this will obviously involve graphing and stuff. You're fine to just do it on your regular notebook paper if you prefer, but I just want to let you know in case you like graph paper, you might want to bring some graph paper to class with you to do that with. And lastly here, the last two things, horizontal lines, graph of y is equal to c. Okay, so if you have y is equal to some number, that's a horizontal line, okay, meaning it goes this way, side to side, and it is horizontal line through the point. Okay, so x is equal to 0, so it's going to be the point 0, c, because c is where it crosses the y-axis. And then similarly for vertical lines, okay, so these are the ones that go up and down. This is the graph of x is equal to c, is the vertical line through the point. Okay, in this case, x is c and y is 0. Okay, so hopefully you've seen this stuff before. Okay, that's why I'm kind of moving through it a little bit quickly. I would do an example here in the notes, but I feel like it'd be easier just to talk about it in class when you guys are actually in here, so we'll spend some time with that then.